For us, this isn't really a story just about alcoholism. It's a love story, it's a coming-of-age story, but it's about committing yourself to someone, being in a relationship with someone when you have to change, and they're not necessarily capable of that. And it's really about, growing up, being an adult, and being in a committed relationship.
It was kind of daunting knowing that, even though there's a lot of dark parts of the film, that it was also supposed to be funny in a lot of ways. So I was kind of scared about that. I didn't really want to try and be funny because, the character's not necessarily trying to be funny. It's just these situations that she gets herself into that are hard not to laugh at sometimes.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead really gave us everything you could possibly ask for from an actor. I've been a fan of hers for years. She has such a strength, as an actor. She's a real, she's tough, but she's also wise and funny, and she's someone that, an audience can really go on a ride with because, when she falls down, you believe she'll get back up.
Her role in this film, she carries it on her back. And Aaron Paul, we've talked a lot about Mary, but let's talk about Aaron. I mean, he hit it out of the park too.
Aaron is fantastic. Such a great actor, obviously, but he's also just such an awesome person. He's so kind. He's so open. Like, you can just look into his big eyes, and it's just, you can see everything that he's feeling, and that's just so ideal in any actor that you're working with, that you can connect easily with them. And he made it very easy for me every day.
Octavia Spencer has been one of my favorite character actors for years. She's just so generous and funny and spontaneous. Nick Offerman is one of my, as Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec, I think is one of the great, TV characters. His wife, Megan Mullally, I've adored forever. Mary Kay Place, Kyle Gallner. They're just some of my favorite actors, and I just feel really grateful that they were all, kind enough to be in this movie. Most of my drunk stories start funny, and some of them end, not so funny.
Aaron and I went out drinking just before we started shooting. It was interesting, just getting drunk with the guy from Breaking Bad that you're a huge fan of, and having him see you throw up maybe was kind of embarrassing.
I'm not a big drinker, so I'm easily smashed. How about that?
And I think it's very relatable, and I think for a lot of people, they just don't know when to say when, and some of them can't stop. And this happens to be a story about someone who has a lot of funny drunk stories, but she can't stop.
Everyone has a chance of redemption. Life is too short not to know that you're worth that.
Please join me in welcoming the director of Smash, James Ponsoldt.
Can we bring over Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Winstead? And Ms. Octavia Spencer. And our producer, Jennifer Coaches.
Okay, we'll open it up to the audience right away. Yes, in the middle here.
We did a lot, James and I together. It wasn't really an easy task to just jump into, but I started out going to a lot of AA meetings with our co-writer Susan Burke, as well, one of our producers who's also in recovery, and so they invited me into some meetings, and I got to see a lot of different types of people and a lot of different types of stories, and that was kind of the first step to realizing how much I related to this character, because it's really a universal struggle of just trying to accept, who you are and kind of learn how to be an adult. So I was able to kind of not focus so much on the alcoholism part of it and focus more on the sort of coming of age story part of it.
I wrote the script, as was mentioned, with my good friend Susan Burke, and she is a very, very funny and talented lady. She's a comedian, but she's also has been sober for a number of years. She got sober in her early 20s, and she's very open and honest about that part of her life. And we both just realized we had so many people around us. I'd grown up with so many people, family members that had dealt with addiction, with alcohol or drugs, and had so many friends who were our age, and in fact, in my case, I'd been to like 3 or 4 weddings in the past couple of years where the bride and groom were both drunk at their own wedding, which was funny, and then I sort of flash forwarded it in my mind to when they have kids when it's not going to be so funny. But we sort of decided that we wanted to tell a story that was first and foremost a love story, but that did deal with addiction and recovery, but that dealt with it in a different way than what we'd seen. Something that wasn't just a scared straight movie where it just punishes a main character and makes you feel awful for her. Something that had comedy, that had a female protagonist, and that was something that was totally relatable. It's not about addiction to heroin or meth. It's about alcohol. Everyone in this room has probably been drunk recently. We're on a college campus, so I know I have. But we really did want to make a story that was totally relatable and that didn't sort of objectify the main character and just make you gawk at her. We wanted something where you totally had empathy and identification with her, and that where she felt strong and heroic, and where you could see yourself in her. So.
Oh, I hate answering that because I think it should really be, open to your interpretation and what you want for the characters. I mean, I know for me, I don't feel like, they're at the place to really start anything new or go back to the old way that they were at the end of the film. I think it's sort of hopeful in the sense that I think Charlie, that line where he says, "You're kicking my ass and it's embarrassing," is kind of like him saying, I've kind of reached the point where I need to start stepping it up. And so I think that's really hopeful in that sense, and that maybe one day down the line, they could be in each other's lives again. But I don't think at that point they're quite ready for it. Most of it was scripted. We definitely improvised and had fun with it, but that was mostly kind of before and after the main chunks of the scene. Like James would just leave the camera rolling a lot and just to see what moments would come up. But when you look at the film, there's probably just a few small moments that were improvised, and for the most part, it's really all scripted.
Yeah. I think, James, you gave me shawarma, too.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like shawarma?
know,
Who doesn't
it's
eat
like-
shawarma when they're drunk?
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty. Yeah, it was all on the page. It was all on the page. But after we'd done a few takes, this is where it was really great. You didn't feel like you were on a shoestring budget because he would let us play a little bit, and but it was already on the page.
Yeah, I mean, there was sort of an agreement with the actors early on, which was anything they wanted to try in front of the camera, I would shoot. Just they had to agree to try anything I would ask. But I mean, when you get actors as amazing as Mary or Octavia, there's no reason to micromanage. You should give them as much freedom as possible because they're brilliant and creative and just magnificent, inspiring women and actors. And I just got to stand by the camera and watch them every day and laugh or cry. So I was the luckiest guy on earth.
One thing I just would add really fast is that James would always, every take, he'd always say, if you want to change anything, just change it. Say whatever you want to say. And we'd always go, we like the lines. Yeah. We really like the lines. We want to say them.
You know more about what it's like to be a woman than I do. So do you.
James, I really feel like you should talk about this because he had very specific ideas of who he wanted, and they're right here. But you should talk about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sort of like this fetishist for really, really great actors, and there's this laundry list of people that I've always wanted to work with, and these are two of them right here. I'd loved both of you for years. Octavia, you have just been a scene stealer throughout your career, whether it's on Ugly Betty or Drag Me to Hell or Dinner for Schmucks or whatever. You're always you elevate everything that you're in. You're always so spontaneous and vulnerable and honest, and I just love watching you. And Mary, you have this strength that you bring to every performance, whether you're kicking the shit out of aliens or whatever in The Thing or in Scott Pilgrim, whether you're just this grounded heart at the center of it. I just love watching you, and you brought that strength and humor and bravery to the performance. So, and it kind of went across the board. I mean, all the other actors, Nick Offerman, and Megan Mullally, who are married in real life, are the most beautiful couple, and they're so hilarious, and they tell the dirtiest jokes, and they kept everybody laughing, but they're great comedic actors, and they're really great dramatic actors. Mary Kay Place is one of my favorite actors of all time. Kyle Gallner, who's not in the film that much, is a really great actor too. I just loved everyone in the film.
Well, it came to me on a silver platter, and I took it. That's really, my agent read it, and it was the very first part I was offered before The Help ever came out. And so James believed in me before anybody else did. And we kind of went on that ride together.
You're a badass.
But I have to say, the one thing that I was so adamant about was wearing that wig in the last scene. And I'm thinking, why did I do that? Why? James, so yeah, he wrote it, and my agent read it and said, you have to be in this movie. And then I found out that Mary and Aaron were doing it, and I read it. I'm like, well, absolutely, I have to be in the movie. And when you work with James, his personality is exactly what you see. He's like a exuberant child on Christmas Day, every day, and you just kind of want to be a part of that. And being in a scene with this one, I mean, she did something very different in every single solitary take. And I mean, talk about enjoying your work. I mean, God, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. Sorry, it wasn't more exciting than I had to fight for that role.
Right. For me, I was really, I was at a point where I was really seeking out something really small and performance-focused and character-focused, and so I was really looking for something like this. I had no idea something at this level would ever come my way, though. I mean, I never expected that. So I met with one of the producers first, and I just met with him generally to talk about projects, and one of his projects was this script, and he sent it to me, and I was just blown away, and I was kind of like, I'll never be considered for this part, but I'm like, I'm going to try somehow. I'm going to get in there, and it was amazing how easy it came, because James was aware of me, and so I sent in an audition tape, and he loved it, and cast me right off the spot. I was like, no, it's supposed to be harder than this. You're not supposed to, no, I'm supposed to fight for this, man. So it was amazing that he was so sure, and he knew what he wanted, and he didn't have to see every actress in Hollywood to know that I could do the part, which meant a lot to me.
I watched that audition tape with my wife on the couch in our living room, and we both cried our asses off, and she said that if we didn't cast her, she would never sleep with me again. So I didn't have a choice. I don't regret it for a second. The biggest thing for me was, and for Susan, who I co-wrote the script, was that we just, every single character in the film, we wanted to be a great advocate for, and we had so much love in our hearts for every character. I mean, my favorite stories are about profoundly screwed up people who are just trying to fix themselves, and like, it doesn't matter if they're rational in their pursuit of fixing themselves, or even if they achieve their goals. It's sort of more human if they fail. And so there was just, you know, we loved all of these characters, and I mean, the most moving things to me are when people have a lot of love in their hearts for each other and still just destroy each other and hurt each other just because they don't know what they're doing with their lives, or they just have conflicting interests. And you know, it was really important that every single character in the film feel full. Even if they had 2 lines, we wanted them to feel like a real human being, and that they could have an entire film devoted to themselves.
It's kind of a blur, to be honest. James might, remember more of what we did to kind of get there. But, we did so much character work before we shot the film. We were so detailed about kind of what her emotional state was in each scene and what she had been through and what was triggering those emotions that, I just always had James with me to kind of remind me of what it is that's making her feel that way. And some of those things are things in her backstory that aren't talked about in the film that just helped me understand her better. And also things in my own life that James understood, and so it was really easy for him to just kind of say something to me that he knew would mean something to me. And so it was really helpful to have somebody, directing me who knew me very well, and to have that kind of trust that, he would take care of me as an actor was really amazing.
She worked really hard for months before we even started shooting. She worked her ass off, and it all lent itself to the performance. Every day she showed up on set, like the cast and crew was in awe of like what you were bringing as an actor and just your work ethic, and it was really inspiring to me personally. So thank you.
I was very lucky, like I said earlier, that we had Susan Burke, who's in recovery, who's been through AA, and another one of our producers who's in recovery, who's been through it, that I had them to take me to the meetings, so I didn't feel like I was just sort of barging in dishonestly or unannounced. And I would go, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I was making a film or that I was an actor. I would sit in and I would say, I'm here to learn about AA, and I'm here to hear more about it. And they were very open. And it's even though it is anonymous, it's not only for alcoholics. It's open to anybody who wants to learn about it and who wants to better themselves in some way. So I would go and I would just quietly listen, and it was really welcoming and lovely to be at every single one.
It's worth adding that, there are different types of AA meetings. There's open meetings and closed meetings. Closed meetings we didn't attend. We
only went to open meetings.
We went to open meetings, and I think we already had a script at that point, but what it brought by being there and just listening to people was sort of profound respect for the struggles that people had, but also a real sense of camaraderie and a sense of, actually the joy and humor that you find in those meetings. You really do hear the funniest and weirdest stories you will ever hear in your life, followed by maybe the saddest story you've ever heard. But I think it just sort of, for us, we knew we had to get it right and give it proper respect.
I think we all think that you got it right. I think that's a really nice place to end it. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.